The higher education landscape in South Africa in 2012 is a rather interesting landscape at the moment, partly because we've now 18 years into our democracy. We've had quite a focused or targeted focus on facilitating access, particularly for marginalized groupings in our country. And I think the reality that we're facing, as I suppose other international higher education institutions are facing, is moving beyond the access debate, because I think we have a fairly good understanding about access issues, the limitations around that, factors that negate or facilitate access. But I think the fundamental issue that we're looking at now is throughput and success. Because I think that brings in a completely different dimension to the discussion. How the issues of race and gender pan out in the higher education system in South Africa is reflective of the demographics in our society. Largely, the African population is the predominant race grouping in our country, and that if you were to equate the total number from that particular population group to the number of students of African descent who register and graduate, it's completely disproportionate. So the minority group, which would be predominantly white people in South Africa, have possibly a 60% participation and graduation rate in higher education, where you don't get the same for African students. So that disparity is both concerning, and I think is reflective of access to poor schooling, just the history, the historical nature of what apartheid did to our society, and that 18 years later we're still struggling to rectify. Programs to address the low participation rate or success rate of African students in our context, I think are as varied as the number of institutions we have in our country. So each university will have different measures that they will implement, and I think that's partly the problem. Is it's not a strategic intervention that attempts to address a really concerning issue in our country. So, for example, our institution has gone into the field of providing an access program to academically talented rural kids with the aim of facilitating access and monitoring their success at various institutions. But I think there are non-tangible issues that the higher education sector needs to seriously reflect on. One of them being the lack of reflexivity on the part of the academy in relation to their curriculum and how they teach that curriculum, and how that curriculum translates to supporting the diversity of a very heterogeneous group. So I think the efforts are, students are treated as homogeneous, and that lack of diversity, I think, also compromises the impact and success of a huge number of students.